The Dragon and the Alien Girl with the Fire Souls. The emergency alarm screamed a violent symphony of destruction as Kale Reiteran's ship plummeted through the atmosphere of an unknown planet. Sparks erupted from fractured control panels, and the acrid smell of burning circuitry filled the cramped cockpit. His hands, calloused from years of interstellar combat, gripped the control yoke with a desperate intensity that spoke of countless similar moments, moments that had always ended with his survival, but never with grace. "Come on, you miserable heap of scrap," Kale muttered, his voice a rasp of determination cutting through the chaos. The ship's hull groaned, metal twisting and protesting as it carved a violent path through layers of mist and emerald-tinted atmosphere. He was a refugee of a war that had consumed everything: his home, his unit, his entire sense of purpose. The uniform he wore was more patched than original fabric, a testament to years of survival against impossible odds. At 35, Kale had long since stopped believing in miracles. Survival was a mathematical equation, not a matter of hope. The ground rushed up with terrifying speed. Trees, if they could be called trees, bent and whipped like tentacles, their silvery blue leaves creating a blur of motion. With a thunderous impact that seemed to shake the very core of the planet, the ship carved a massive trench through the landscape, finally grinding to a halt amid a cloud of steam and pulverized vegetation. Silence. For several moments, only the soft hiss of cooling metal and the distant calls of unseen creatures broke the stillness. Then a movement. A hand, Kale's hand, pushed aside a fallen panel. Blood trickled from a cut on his forehead, but his eyes were sharp, scanning the destroyed cockpit with the instincts of a seasoned survivor. He was alive, impossibly, unbelievably alive. The ship's emergency systems had failed spectacularly, but the reinforced survival pod had done its job. Kale pulled himself from the wreckage, his body aching but functional. His standard-issue survival pack was miraculously intact: a few nutrient tablets, a multi-tool, a water purification system, and a compact energy weapon. The landscape was unlike anything he had ever seen. Twin moons hung low in a lavender sky, casting an ethereal glow over terrain that seemed to pulse with an alien vitality. Massive crystalline formations jutted from the ground like frozen lightning, refracting the moonlight into 1,000 dancing colors. The air was thick, heavy with a scent that reminded him simultaneously of burning wood and fresh rain. Preliminary scan, Kale spoke into his damaged communication device, more out of habit than expectation of a response. Unknown planetary system, atmosphere marginally breathable, no immediate signs of. A sound interrupted him, not the wind, not an animal, something else. A low, melodic hum that seemed to resonate from the very ground beneath his feet. It was a sound that carried memories, pain, and an ancient, smoldering power. Then she appeared. Nicera Lumina stepped from between the crystalline formations like a vision conjured from starlight and shadow. Her skin was a radiant green that seemed to shimmer with an inner luminescence, changing subtly with each movement. Flowing silver-green hair cascaded past her shoulders, moving with a liquid grace that defied natural movement. Her eyes, those eyes were impossible. A deep, luminous blue that held depth beyond mere color. They were windows to something ancient, something that had witnessed the birth and death of civilizations. She wore only ceremonial white undergarments, a fabric so delicate it seemed woven from moonlight itself. Her body was a study in powerful grace, long legs, strong thighs, a form that spoke of both beauty and hidden strength. For a moment, neither moved. Kale's hand instinctively drifted toward his weapon, but something in her gaze froze him. This was no ordinary encounter. This was a meeting written in the language of stars and forgotten prophecies. "You are not supposed to be here," Nicera spoke, her voice a melody that seemed to carry the weight of centuries. "No one comes here anymore." Kale took a step forward, then another. "I didn't exactly choose my landing spot," he responded, a hint of his characteristic dry humor breaking through the tension. A slight shift in her expression. Was it amusement? pain, something else entirely. Little did Kale know that his crash landing was about to set in motion a sequence of events that would reshape not just his destiny, but the fate of entire worlds. The first chapter of their story was just beginning, written in the language of fire, survival, and a connection that transcended the boundaries of species and star systems. The shelter was primitive by Kale's standards, a structure woven from living plants that seemed to breathe and shift with the planet's rhythm. Nicera had constructed it with a practiced efficiency that spoke of survival instincts honed through generations. Bioluminescent moss provided a soft, pulsing light that cast dancing shadows across the compact space. Kale watched her carefully as she moved, each motion deliberate and graceful. His survival training screamed caution, but something deeper, an intuition he'd learned to trust during years of interstellar conflict, suggested she was more protector than threat. "You haven't told me why you're here," Nicera said, her back turned as she prepared what appeared to be a meal from local vegetation. The crystalline implements she used seemed to change color with each touch, responding to her proximity like living things. Kale shifted, the old wound on his shoulder, a memento from the last great battle he'd survived, aching with the planet's strange atmospheric pressure. "My ship was attacked. I'm the last of my reconnaissance unit. We were tracking a potential threat to the galactic peace accords." A moment of silence stretched between them. When Nicera returned, her eyes held a complexity that suggested she knew far more than she was revealing. "Peace is a fragile construct. On this world, we learned that lesson centuries ago." Rorik Eldhin appeared without warning. One moment the shelter was empty, the next, an elderly figure stood near the entrance. Unlike Nicera, his skin was a pale gray, mapped with intricate lines that seemed more like circuit pathways than wrinkles. His eyes, milky white with pinpricks of silver, surveyed Kale with an intensity that made the pilot feel like he was being dissected. "The Dragonborn are almost extinct," Rorik stated, his voice a dry whisper that seemed to carry the dust of forgotten memories. "Nicera is the last, and you, interstellar wanderer, have brought more than just yourself to our hidden world." Kale tensed. "What does that mean?" Nicera's hand unconsciously drifted to her side, where a subtle shimmer suggested some form of concealed marking. "The prophecy," she murmured, more to herself than to the others. Rorik nodded, his attention never wavering from Kale. "Your arrival was not random. The stellar maps, the trajectory of your ship, the precise moment of your crash, all calculated with a precision that suggests something greater than mere chance." The old elder moved closer, and Kale felt a strange, tingling sensation. Not threat, not quite welcome, something between recognition and warning. "Your people fought a war," Rorik continued, "but the real conflict has always been about something more fundamental. Balance. The interplay of elemental forces that bind star systems together." Nicera's hand brushed against Kale's arm, a touch so brief he might have imagined it, but something changed. A spark. A momentary connection that felt like touching the heart of a dying star. "The fire within me," she whispered. "It responds to you in ways I don't understand." Kale had seen impossible things. He'd navigated asteroid fields that would reduce most pilots to cosmic dust. He'd survived encounters with species that defied biological classification. But this connection with Nicera felt different, primordial, as if their meeting had been written in the fundamental language of the universe. Rorik began to speak of an ancient lineage, of the Dragonborn, a species that was part biological entity, part living energy, guardians of planetary equilibrium. Nicera was more than the last of her kind. She was a repository of a power that could reshape entire star systems. "Your arrival triggers something," the elder said to Kale, "a resonance, a potential that has been dormant for generations." Outside, the twin moons seemed to pulse. The crystalline formations that dotted the landscape vibrated with a subtle frequency. Something was awakening. Kale looked at Nysera, she looked back. In that moment they both understood their connection was more than chance, more than attraction. It was a convergence of destinies that had been waiting centuries to align. "We're not just survivors," Kale said softly, "we're something else." Nysera's smile was both a promise and a warning. Yes, something else entirely. As night deepened and the moons cast their ethereal light, the shelter became a crucible of unfolding mysteries. The last of the Dragonborn and the battle-scarred pilot, bound by a connection that defied understanding, waited for the next revelation. The universe, it seemed, was not done with them, not by a long shot. The resistance camp burned with an energy that was equal parts desperation and hope. Makeshift shelters constructed from salvaged ship components and local biomaterials created a labyrinth of survival. Arya Windborn stood at the center, her tactical display flickering with holographic representations of planetary defense points. "They're coming," she said, turning to Kale and Nysera. "The planetary defense grid is compromised, and Darian Frost's forces are less than a standard solar cycle from breaking through our last defensive line." Kale studied the holographic map, his pilot's instincts immediately identifying the critical weak points. The connection he developed with Nysera had heightened his perception. He could now sense tactical possibilities that would have been invisible to him mere weeks ago. Nysera's hand touched a crystalline interface. Where her skin made contact, the map shifted, revealing hidden pathways and energy conduits that weren't part of the original tactical display. Her fire-infused essence was more than just a metaphor. It was a living intelligence that could interface directly with the planet's core systems. "The underground network," she murmured, tracing a line of pulsing energy, "it's not just a communication grid. It's a living system that responds to specific genetic signatures." Arya raised an eyebrow, meanings. "Meaning," Kale interjected, "that Nysera can potentially hack the entire planetary defense system using nothing but her own biological signature." The resistance leader was a study in controlled intensity. Shorter than Nysera, with close-cropped hair and eyes that had seen too much war, Arya represented the last hope of a people pushed to the brink of extinction. Her combat uniform, an adaptive camouflage material that seemed to breathe and shift, told stories of countless battles. "The Dragonborn were always more than just a species," Arya explained. "You were guardians, regulators of planetary ecosystems. Darian Frost wants more than just conquest. He wants to strip this world of its fundamental energy sources." Nysera's eyes flickered, quite literally. For a moment they seemed to burn with an internal fire, blue flames dancing where pupils should be. "My people were architects of planetary balance. Each world we touched became a living, breathing entity. Frost sees planets as resources, we saw them as living beings." The resistance camp was a testament to survival. Refugees from a dozen different star systems had found their way here, each bringing fragments of hope. Children played near makeshift energy barriers, their laughter a stark contrast to the impending threat. Kale watched Nysera, seeing her in a new light. The connection between them had grown into something more than attraction, a symbiotic bond that allowed them to anticipate each other's movements, to understand unspoken strategies with a mere glance. Their first true test came that night. Darian Frost's advanced ships breached the outer atmosphere with surgical precision. Massive war machines that looked more like living metal organisms than traditional spacecraft descended through the twin moon sky. "They're using quantum disruption protocols," Kale warned, his hands already moving to activate the Resistance's defense systems. "Traditional shields won't hold." Nysera stepped forward. The air around her began to shimmer, molecules exciting into a dance of potential energy. Then we'll use something beyond traditional. What happened next defied conventional warfare. As the first wave of attack ships entered the planet's lower atmosphere, Nicera unleashed something primordial. It wasn't just fire. It was pure, concentrated planetary energy. Streams of blue-green flame erupted from the ground, guided by her will, transforming the incoming vessels into molten droplets before they could complete their assault. Kale watched in awe. This was no mere weapon. This was a conversation between a guardian and the living planet itself. Arya's communication systems crackled to life. First wave neutralized, but frost won't stop. This is just the beginning. As dawn approached, casting its lavender light across the resistance camp, Kale pulled Nicera close. Their foreheads touched, a moment of connection that transcended words. "We're not just fighting a war," he whispered. "We're protecting something far more important." Nicera's response was a smile that held the promise of fire, of rebirth, of a destiny far greater than either of them could comprehend. The rebellion had truly begun. The ancient temple rose from the planet's core like a living memory. Carved from crystals that seemed to breathe with an internal light, its architecture defied every known principle of structural design. Soren Blackthorn, the mystical planetary sage, stood at its entrance, a figure that seemed more spirit than flesh. "The prophecy is not a prediction," Soren explained, his voice a whisper that carried the weight of forgotten millennia. "It's a convergence, a moment when two souls can either heal or destroy the fundamental fabric of stellar existence." Kale and Nicera exchanged a look. Their connection had grown beyond words, beyond touch. They could now sense each other's thoughts, feel the rhythm of each other's heartbeats as if they were a single entity. Kira Windborn, Arya's younger sister and a prodigy in quantum archaeology, spread out an ancient holographic map. It wasn't a map of physical terrain, but a complex web of energy lines that pulsed and shifted like living neural networks. "The Dragonborn were never just a species," Kira explained, her fingers tracing intricate patterns of light. "They were living conduits, planetary regulators who could interface directly with the fundamental energy of star systems." Nicera's hand unconsciously drifted to a mark on her side, a birthmark that had always been more than just a physical characteristic. As her fingers touched it, the temple's crystal walls began to resonate, creating a harmonic frequency that made the very air vibrate with potential. Soren stepped closer. "Your arrival was predicted, Kale, not you specifically, but what you represent, a catalyst, an outsider who would awaken the dormant potential within the last of the Dragonborn." The sage produced an artifact, a crystalline sphere that seemed to contain entire galaxies within its depths. Fractals of light danced inside, telling stories of civilizations long forgotten. "The prophecy speaks of a union," he continued, "not just of individuals but of fundamental cosmic forces, fire and void, creation and destruction, the ability to either mend or shatter entire star systems." Kale felt the weight of destiny pressing down. He had been a soldier, a survivor. But this was something entirely different. His very existence had become a turning point in a cosmic narrative far larger than any war he had ever fought. Nicera moved closer to him, their connection now so profound that their individual identities seemed to blur. "We are not just ourselves anymore," she whispered. "We are a potential." Outside, the twin moons began to align, a celestial event that happened once every 1,000 years. The planet itself seemed to hold its breath. Kira's quantum analysis revealed something extraordinary. The energy signatures are building. Whatever is coming, it's approaching a critical point of no return. Soren's eyes, pools of infinite wisdom, locked with Kale's. "You must understand, the choice is not about winning or losing, it's about balance, about maintaining the delicate equilibrium that keeps star systems from consuming themselves." A series of memories flooded Kale's mind. Not his own memories, but something deeper. Fragments of dragonborn history, civilizations rising and falling, planetary guardians who could reshape entire ecosystems with a thought. Nysera gripped his hand. Their combined energy began to create visible ripples in the air around them, waves of blue-green fire that danced with an intelligence of their own. We are a weapon, Kale realized, but we're also a healing force. The temple began to pulse. The crystal walls transformed, showing holographic projections of potential futures. Some showed worlds consumed by fire, others depicted planetary renewal, each future balanced on the knife's edge of their decision. Kiera's instruments went wild. The quantum probability field is collapsing and reforming around you too. You're not just changing potential futures, you're rewriting the fundamental laws of cosmic interaction. As the twin moons reached their perfect alignment, Kale and Nysera understood the true nature of their connection. They were more than lovers, more than allies. They were a living bridge between destruction and creation. Soren's final words hung in the air like a prophecy and a warning. Choose carefully. The fate of worlds depends on what happens in the next moments. The universe held its breath waiting. The final battle was not what anyone expected. Torin Shadowmere stood at the convergence point, a nexus of planetary energy that pulsed with the potential to either heal or obliterate entire star systems. His form was neither fully organic nor mechanical, a testament to generations of genetic manipulation and technological augmentation. You think you can stop the inevitable, Torin's voice resonated with a cold, calculated precision. The entropy of civilizations is absolute. Worlds rise, worlds fall. Lyra Frostweaver, the last of the quantum resistance, had positioned herself at a critical junction. Her body was more energy construct than flesh, a living conduit of resistance against total planetary destruction. Kale and Nysera stood together, their connection now a visible manifestation of cosmic potential. Where they touched, reality itself seemed to ripple, blue-green flames of possibility dancing between them, weaving patterns of creation and destruction. We are not here to fight, Nysera spoke, her voice carrying the weight of her entire extinct civilization. We are here to restore. The battlefield was unlike any conflict in recorded history. It wasn't about weapons or territorial conquest. It was a war of fundamental cosmic principles, balance against entropy, creation against destruction. Torin's augmented form began to break down the planetary defensive structures. Quantum disruptors tore through energy fields that had protected the world for millennia. But with each destruction, Kale and Nysera's connection grew stronger. They had discovered something profound in their time together. They were not just individuals, but a living algorithm of planetary restoration. Their bond transcended physical connection, becoming a bridge between what was and what could be. Lyra's quantum systems began to resonate with their energy. The probability fields are realigning, she called out. You're not just fighting, you're rewriting the fundamental code of planetary existence. Memories flooded their collective consciousness. The history of the Dragonborn, the countless worlds they had protected, the delicate balance of cosmic ecosystems, all of it converged in this moment. Torin launched his final assault, a quantum singularity designed to consume the entire planetary system. But as the destructive energy approached, something extraordinary happened. Kale and Nysera merged. Not physically, not in any way that could be explained by conventional science. Their essences, his human resilience, her dragonborn planetary connection, became a single force of cosmic restoration. The blue-green flames erupted not as a weapon but as a healing wave. Where Torin's destructive energy sought to tear apart, their combined essence began to rebuild. Molecular structures reformed. Damaged ecosystems began to breathe again. The very fabric of the planet started to heal. This is not victory, Nicera's voice echoed through the quantum realm. This is balance. Torin's form began to disintegrate, not through violence, but through a fundamental realignment of his core programming. He was being rewritten, transformed from an agent of destruction to a potential seed of renewal. Lyra watched in awe as entire planetary systems seemed to pause, recalibrating around this singular moment of cosmic restoration. As the twin moons reached their final alignment, Kale and Nicera understood the true nature of their connection. They were not just lovers, not just protectors, they were architects of possibility. In the final moments, as the planetary energy settled, they looked at each other. No words were necessary. They had done more than survive. They had restored. The universe breathed, and for the first time in millennia, it felt hope. Epilogue. Years later, travelers would speak of the planet where miracles happened, where a human and a dragonborn had rewritten the very laws of cosmic existence, where destruction had been transformed into a chance for renewal. Their legacy was not in conquest. It was in the possibility of what could be.